Well, good evening to all, and I would like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone, all members of council that are in attendance both in person and virtually this evening, members of our staff that are with us tonight, also to Selena Whaling-Ray and Denise Van Amersfoort, the Manager of Planning for Huron County that are with us, all members of the public in attendance, and any members of the media that may be joining us. Meetings of council are live streamed on the township's official website in accordance with the live streaming and virtual participation of meetings policy. By attending this meeting, attendees and participants are consenting to their image, voice, and comments being recorded and available for public viewing on the township's website. This meeting has been called to host a public meeting as required under the Planning Act. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest or potential conflict of interest to indicate at this time of any agenda item this evening? Okay, I thank you for that. As this is a public meeting, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to adjourn our special council meeting and open our public meeting for the zoning bylaw update, please. Councillor Hickey and Miltonberg. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. The purpose of this public meeting is for council to review written and verbal comments from the public regarding the zoning bylaw update before council considers the final documents for adoption. Notice of this public meeting was distributed as prescribed and was also sent to those who had outstanding objections. Selena Whaling-Ray and a planner, and Denise Van Amersfoort, the Manager of Planning for the County of Huron, in the Planning Department, will make the presentation to council and to the public this evening. Staff have provided council with the following: a report prepared by Selena Whaling-Ray, appendix with mapping, objections, and summary, known comments received from the public, draft zoning bylaw text, and draft mapping changes. After the presentations, comments will be received in the following order: comments of the public, and then comments or questions from council. As per the procedural bylaw, any member of the public may come to the podium, turn on your microphone, indicate your first and last name, and to address council with your comments. Everyone will be allocated 5 minutes to speak once on the issue that they would like to comment on. A timer will go off, Kelly will look after that, at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, letting you know you have 30 seconds to wrap up your comments. And at that 4-minute mark, the comments will be concluded. Members of the public who wish to make a comment during the public meeting virtually can receive a link to participate by contacting the clerk prior to 4 p.m. on the day prior to the meeting. If a person or public body that files an appeal of a decision of ACW Township in respect to the proposed zoning but does not make written or oral submissions before the proposed zoning is adopted, the Ontario Land Tribunal, in brackets OLT, may dismiss all or part of the appeal. The zoning bylaw process following the public meeting is that this is a public meeting, not a council meeting. Therefore, a decision of council may or may not be made later this evening. If the bylaw is passed, the clerk must send notice of the passing of the bylaw to all persons notified of this meeting and to any person or public body that has requested it. There is a 20-day objection period from the time notice of passing has been sent, where submissions will be received by the clerk. If an objection is received, an appeal is lodged with the Ontario Land Tribunals, in brackets OLT, and the municipality no longer has jurisdiction of the file and or the processing time. You may only file an appeal if you have submitted oral or written comments prior to the decision of council. The fee for filing an appeal is $1,100, payable by certified check or money order in Canadian funds made out to the Minister of Finance, and must be accompanied by appellant form in brackets A1. If the bylaw is passed and no objections are received within the 20-day appeal period, the clerk will certify that the bylaw is in force and effect as of the date of its passing, and the final notice is forwarded to those prescribed. So at this time, I would welcome Selena Whaling-Ray and Denise Van Amersfoort to make comments at this time. Welcome.
Good evening, members of ACW Council and members of the public joining this evening. It's great to be back in ACW. I'll take a moment here to introduce myself to any members of the public I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. My name is Selena Whaling-Ray, and I was the planner assigned to provide planning services to the township by the County of Huron for the past 4 years or so. I no longer am the planner assigned to provide services to ACW. I'm working in a different municipality in Huron, but I'm still seeing through this zoning bylaw update project, which began during my time here. My colleague Megan Tidhernick has taken over day-to-day planning in the township and is president this evening, meeting this evening. I'll keep my words tonight brief, as I understand there are a number of members of the public who are wishing to make comment to council. But I just wanted to highlight a few points in my report contained in the agenda package for council's and the public's information. Council will note that there have been some changes to the text draft of the zoning bylaw update since the original draft was brought forward to council in mid-2023. Majority of these changes are just clarification changes based on discussions between the planning and building departments. Council will note that the draft text currently does not contain as well provisions relating to the keeping of livestock in St. Helens that were originally to be considered. Upon further dialogue, staff agreed that there are a number of factors that need to be further considered by council before staff can recommend implementing provisions that permit livestock keeping as of right in the community. I know that that was a topic of discussion the last time the text was brought forward, so I just wanted to highlight that point there. In summary, majority of the text changes do relate to the housing-friendly provisions, as we've been calling them throughout this update, with the other text changes mainly just being clarification points and verbiage of that sort. Overall, staff's opinion was that the text portion of the bylaw is in fairly good shape at this time. The other piece I'd like to touch on is the splitting of the bylaw for consideration into two. So typically, a housekeeping amendment would be brought to council under one bylaw for consideration. For this update, we have proposed to separate the text changes and the mapping changes into two separate bylaws for consideration. And mainly the reason for that is that at this point in the project, staff are of the understanding that outstanding objections pertain mainly, if not exclusively, to property-specific mapping changes. We're not aware of any current objections to the actual text changes. And so staff anticipate that with the scale of outstanding property-specific mapping changes, council may wish to take the opportunity to deliberate those changes further. However, staff are hoping that council may consider passing the text changes following this public meeting. This would mainly allow for those text changes to be in full force and effect at the beginning of the spring building season. So that was kind of the main consideration for splitting the two, but certainly council is not obligated to pass both or either of those tonight or at the same time. And I can certainly answer further questions about that this evening. In terms of the property-specific mapping objections that are outstanding, all known objections at this time have been vetted by planning staff and by agency partners where appropriate. Adjustments have been made to the mapping where appropriate and supportable, with the main primary goal of the mapping exercise being to ensure a consistent approach across the township that meets policy requirements. I'll wrap up my presentation by stating that the recommendation of staff tonight is that council receive the second draft of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and hold the public meeting for the purpose of obtaining public input. Following receiving that public input, council may be in a position tonight to approve the bylaw containing the text changes and to provide direction to staff on the bylaw containing the proposed mapping changes, as well as those outstanding property-specific objections. So that concludes my comments this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions of council throughout the duration of the public meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Does council have any questions of Denise and her comments to this point? All right, Selena, I'm sorry, Selena. We still have Mr. Forrester. Okay, we're good. Please, thank you. Okay, we'll now open it up to comments from members of the public. And as indicated, please go to the podium, indicate your first and last name and your property, and Selena will do her best to pull that up for clarification if council would so wish that. So it's open to the public now.
So just to clarify, you will need to turn your microphone on, okay? Perfect.
I'm George Alton, Kenruth Farms, president of the farm, representing Kenruth Farms. I got the letter from the planning department and it says for your property at roll, the last two numbers are 2900. Hope that's enough. We are not in a position to make any amendments to your proposed changes. So I have questions for you and I'll go through them. I did not give consent for anything you are proposing. So how can you do it? You are a corporation. You must have a contract. Where is your contract with me? Do you have the right or title or interest in this private property? We have a sign and we've sent it to council and to all the people need it. It states Kennedy's Farms Limited, no trespassing by land, air, or water. No recordings of any kind. All things that are above, below, or on this private property, living or not, including the land, are under a claim of right. First offense, $10,000, trespassing, and $10,000 per agent. There's my phone number, 519-440-7050. Do you not understand what that means? I end up getting pictures of the properties. Sign and what we sent to the township, does that not mean anything to you guys? You have been lawfully notified in writing. No consent. No trespassing. This is unlawful trespass on title. You are violating the sign and all is written upon it. Do you understand? There is a fee upon this sign. Do you understand it? I think for your TACIT or TACIT agreement to the fees. And I have requested in the past for all the pictures and anything pertaining to our properties to be put in a box and given back to me because you have no consent to have them. And if these pictures were taken prior, I should have had them and you should not have been sending them out because you don't have them anymore or shouldn't have because I have not given you consent. So I want all my information off all our properties, put in a box, notify me, and I'll come pick them up by the end of the month. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any questions or comments of council? Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes, I'd just like to know what changes are they proposing for your property? I know I went through these, but I didn't see them. Sorry.
Out at St. Helens. And it's the low-laying area. But we haven't given consent, so
So I was looking at the same thing. Do you know the roll number or the 911 on the property that's in question and rezoning?
it's 40706400080290.
Thank you.
And it doesn't matter what they're proposing, you have not got consent to do anything. So remember what the sign means.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of council? If not, thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to make any comments at this time, please?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak to council tonight. I was just wondering, Selena, did you ever give them?
Could you just state your name first and last?
Oh,
please,
sorry,
for everyone?
Peter Schittel.
Thank
Okay, thank you. I basically need to know, did you update the council on our proposal there, or is that not happening? Should I just give it a brief background?
So Peter, your property is included in the appendix of outstanding property objections, and then your correspondence was also included in the agenda. So that's the latest. And
Okay.
the amendments we made to your mapping are reflected in that
Okay,
objection.
okay. But anyway,
So
what I just want to say,
just before you go on, Peter, so this is 36,729 McGaw Road. Is that correct or not?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you
Yep.
for clarification, Council.
anyway, so yeah, we were notified about 2 years ago in regards to a zoning change on this state property. Do you want to know the number? Okay. Anyway, so the whole idea arised, we got this letter saying, okay, we're going to change this with natural environment. And that kind of irked us quite a bit. Because A, we planted all those trees 40 years ago. The trees in question were planted 40 years ago after we arrived in Canada. And the previous owners actually had cattle in there. They raised their cattle in there, and well, they trampled the bank down. It was just a mess, and it was not convenient. And we said, well, let's plant some trees. So we did that, and we planted a lot of trees over the years. And, there's mainly pine in there right now if somebody wants to go and look at it. And then Selena was approached, and it took quite a while to actually get the field visit. But we did have a field visit. When was that? 2 months ago, about? About 2 months ago. That's okay. That's close enough. But anyway, so Selena and Rachel came out and looked at the whole proposal there. And Selena indicated at that point she could actually reduce the property by half on her own terms, because she could see the merit what I was saying. But the rest, the other half, the town council would have to decide on that one, which makes sense. I mean, that's the authority she had. However, we looked at this whole situation, and it's probably not so much as we intend to clear that bush. That was never our intention. We just offered Selena at that point, let's classify that as forest land, as regular bush. So we don't have to deal with this infringement, if you wish, which would actually then become a major issue in a few years down the road. But I'll get to that. So what is the problem? Well, that property, when you look at the location, it borders on each side some of the most productive land we have in this township. So we actually put the stipulation on that. It does infringes on landowners' right and violates the title to a certain degree. However, my biggest beef with that is actually the further restrictions we are going to see with those kind of legislations. I have a lot of background in Europe, trust me, on what I see, what's coming out of this. It scares the hell out of me. It does. Who is to say 2 years down the road, we have a 100-foot buffer strip on each side of that where you can't put any manure down, you cannot put any fertilizer down, let alone use any pesticide. All of a sudden, our 4 acres in question will become a much, much bigger issue. So this is where I have the biggest beef with that whole thing. And you got to remember, we are all human people, and we approve or deny this legislation, but you got to remember, those jobs will not disappear. Those people who work for the government, they will find way to make us very annoyed, if you wish, in the next little while. Because we could see that in Europe what happened now. Why did the whole thing in Europe blow up now? It's not about the diesel fuel, about the color diesel. No. What really happened in the last little while was actually they came along and said in the European Union, 4% of your farmable land will be designated natural environment. So that really irked a lot of guys. And, so it's just one of those things as it goes on. And I'm sure within a few years, you will see more infringement on those things. Does it affect me? No, I'm a pensioner, I'm okay. But council has to be very careful what we are going to saddle our next generation with those kind of restrictions. Because a lot of those people who make those kind of ideas have no damn idea what farming is all about. Government people, by virtue, are not very entrepreneurial people. But they're very, very good I'd actually go to Europe and see what they actually can do just to hamper or infringe on our freedom to farm.
Thank you.
And so this is what the beef is all about.
Okay.
And I will, just in closing, I will say, this council has dealt a fair bit with drainage over the years. I know that. And one of the interesting things, if I get friends over from Europe.
Please wrap
now-
it up, Peter.
Huh?
Time's expired. Please wrap it up.
Okay. Okay, I say you wouldn't have to do any drainage issues anymore. You can't tile a farm in Europe anymore. They shut that all down. They shut that down. That's how far it went. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do any members of council have any questions or comments? No, thank you for that. Do any other members of the public wish to make any comments at this time?
Hello, my name's Daryl Bross, and I was talking with Selena if she could bring up my home farm. Yous have proposed to change it to NE1, which I don't give consent to any of it. I'm the one who pays the mortgage on it. It's my land. She has made some proposed changes. Can you bring the map up
Just hang on a second, please.
just so I can?
Sorry, is that the wish of council to bring?
Would council like to see this up on the screen?
Sure, why not?
A lot easier to explain it.
If you could, please.
Like part of the proposed change is my front lawn.
Okay, yeah, please continue. Thank you.
So if you could,
I'm just,
Oh,
so the east of the house over to the side road, the west end of that is still over my front lawn. You should know that because you walked down that lawn when in the farm visit.
now, if I could just make a comment, we are dealing with the issues here, and we will not bring any personalities into this. Okay?
Okay.
Address the issues.
Okay.
Thank you. I think I should have.
On. And the east end, right along the side road, there's no trees there anyways, because I have run a field tile down there. The second thing is all those trees are planted pines, so they're not natural, but they're all dying. I've been watching it happen for 10 years. They lighten in color, needles go brown, they drop off. So what are you going to do when that's all bare? You can let me farm it, or it can sit there bare. I'm not replanting them. And then the bush lot behind the barn. This is Selena's amendment, where she doesn't have it highlighted anymore. We never even talked about that. We didn't walk over there. We walked straight past the barn. Can I go point to it here? I want to take those two corners off because has anybody moldboard plowed here? Those are a pain in the ass. I want to diagonal that off of there. And the day that she was out there, she indicated that wouldn't be a problem. Now all of a sudden it's being zone changed. And plus, I also drain the proposed area she has here is actually, it's too steep. It's a side hill. I can't even do anything with that. That's how I know we never walked over there. The low area in the middle, yeah, I'm never going to do anything with it because I drain into that. It's too low. But just leave things alone that don't need to be changed. Has anybody got any questions, I guess?
Okay, your presentation's done. Does council have any questions or comments?
Nope, good.
Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, we couldn't really hear the audio when you were pointing out the moldboard. Like, you couldn't see because it wasn't being shown up. So, Celine, if you can bring it back, I'm assuming, okay, now I'm pointing on my computer and you can't see it. on the left-hand side at the top, it says anyone, and then there's like, looks like it would be upside down steps. Is that where he was pointing?
Yes.
And then, Selena, can I hear your answer to that? And also why, it made a step and why you, like, the whole thing isn't anyone? Or what would be his, like, we don't moldboard plow anymore, but as a farming practice, some people do, and that would make sense. Can I have Selena's response to that, please?
Okay, thanks for the question. Selena, please.
Thank you. Through the mayor, as Daryl noted, yes, there was a site visit done with myself and Dave in the fall. And when we discussed this back area in particular, Daryl expressed that the current configuration of the woodlot makes it difficult to plow around it. I don't want to put too many words in Daryl's mouth here. And so the amendment was to try and make it so that the south side of the bush would be easier to work around. Yeah, that's my comments on that.
Okay, thank you for that. You heard that? Okay, Councillor Miltenberg? Yep. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? If not, thank you very much, Daryl. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to make any public any comments at this time, please?
My name is Paul Bollinger. I live on Belgrave Road, 37149, concession 8, lot 14. The planning department removed some natural environment from my property. Thank you. The biggest concern to me is still the northwest corner from the property. It's a plantation with European larch, white pine, and eastern white cedar in there. Some hard maple, and a few black walnut. So the excuse Dave Pullen have, I ask him why that happens. And he goes to prevent to use a bulldozer to level that woodlot and plant corn again. But that woodlot is that steep, you have to tie up a cat if she tried to catch a mouse. So that's not an excuse to me. And I'm a professional registered forester. I do everything what's in my power to keep my woodlot nice and environmental healthy. I don't think somebody in the closer area planted 11,000 trees on my property, what I did the last 10 years. My last project is this spring with another 3,500 trees. I collected some cones. I climb up the trees, collected cones, and have my own little nursery, grow my own seedlings and planted them. And I know to manage a woodlot. And I never abused my bush, never. When I bought the property, was a mess, and I clean up the mess. So I like to see remove this natural environment piece from my property and ask the council nicely today, please do it and leave my property alone. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Do council have any questions or comments? If not, thank you very much. Is there any other members of the public that would like to make any comments, please?
Sophie Burden. I am here for the property on Highway 21, 82215 Blue Water Highway. I sent a letter in August 30th for no consent of any designation change. So we bought the property mentioned above 15, now it's 20 months ago, because of the Ag 1 and Ag 4 designation. We are currently planning on using the property according to this designation, and we will under no circumstances consent to a change of assignment or designation that may restrict or limit the use of that land. Since we moved to Canada and managed several properties, we always acted with respect to nature, to the environment, and served the community the best we can with our farm and bakery products. We farm organically to protect our planet for the future generation, and we plan to cut trees. We always, when we planned to cut trees, we always contacted Mr. Dave Pullen for his advices. We didn't need a natural environment designation to do so. You can trust that we will do so in the future with the property mentioned above. So you are hereby served with this notice of no consent from this day forward that the above mentioned property that is owned, controlled, managed, and occupied by Sophie Burden or Christian Burden be assigned, mapped, and designated agricultural land with no restriction or limitations. Together with the woods and waters above and below the ground, and that any changes of assignment or designation, including but not limited to the Huron Natural Environment Plan. The township's official plan, zoning bylaw, and all zoning changes on the said private property owned, controlled, managed, and occupied by the Burden family without their prior written consent was and is forbidden. This will be enforced until written withdrawal notice from Sophie or Christian Burden. So, this is the letter I sent you in August. I did some homework on the Huron County and ACW give me a second. My printer gave up, so I have to use my phone. Yes, so I did some research and some readings on the Huron County official plan and the ACW official plan. So as I was reading the Huron County official plan, I could not find any reason to not classify our land into agriculture. In the moment, it's classified half Ag 1, half Ag 4. Our neighbors, the property has 4 acres in total. Our neighbors has less than 1 acre and is classified Ag 4. So I got told for the planner so far when I had discussion that Ag 4 is a designation usually for small properties in agriculture and Ag 1 for bigger ones. So now what your suggestion is to take off the Ag 4 to change it into Ag 1 for a 4-acre property. What's the point? Either I didn't understand, or maybe you should explain me why Ag 4 is not an option anymore and Ag 1 is a better one for 4-acre. On these 4-acre, we have 2 acres of bush. 3/4 of the trees are dead. We're gonna clean up the bush. We're gonna leave the good trees like we do on all our properties. And we're gonna do either, our plan is to do some, we already planted an orchard. We're gonna do a garden. We might do a community garden. We might invite people to come. We might sell veggies to the community. So when I read Huron County official plan, I could not find any reason to not classify our land into agriculture. So 30 seconds left.
But yeah, just please wrap it up if you could, please.
So the goal of the community is to protect agriculture, the farm's ability to farm prime agricultural land, and the quality of life for future generations, food security, and the availability of a variety of local food have been identified as important. Production of food for local consumption will be encouraged. So I read through everything. I make it short. So we believe that with our farming project on organic, producing food for the local people is all a response to all. The community values and directions, the vision of agriculture, the balance between agriculture and environment, the recognition that a change in farming is inevitable. And I can go on. If I look at the plan,
Please wrap this up. If you could,
yes.
please.
So anyway, hands off my land. We know what to do. We have trees around all our farm, not like the big farmer who take them down, you know. Wildlife, they're not going to find our little bush if all the trees for hundreds and acres are cut down. They don't like to walk around when they're seen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does council have any questions or comments? No? Thank you very much. Is there any other members of the public that would care to make any comments at this time, please?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jan Stahl. I have sent in some documentation on the property that we recently purchased that we were told was AG1, and we weren't informed it was being rezoned the entire property to anyone, save for a couple of acres. I did send some information to all of the councillors on this particular property. My husband and I walked it. We walked about a quarter of an acre, or half an acre of the property, and marked all of the dead trees and all of the trees that are diseased. Then we went around and we actually counted what was left. We did 2 different sites on it. The first site we did 5 inches, more or less. There was 22 trees on a half an acre, and 8 inches, mostly less. There was very few that were bigger than 8 inches. We had 31 trees. And we had this roughly the same on the second site we did. 5 inches and then 23 trees, 8 inches, 22 trees. Based on that, we don't even fall under the woodlot bylaw, which is I guess part of the reason we're having this problem and it's being zoned NE1, because it is natural environment and it's woodlot. The other problem we have, and I've also sent pictures to everyone, that it has a Nyctera canker that is growing on the trees. Anything that I have found from, majority of it is out of the US, University of Minnesota government sites as well. Their option for this particular tree is to cut, bury, or burn. The disease or canker virus, whatever, will live for up to 3 years. So their recommendation is to destroy it. Now, I was told when I met with the forester and the biologist that, well, that was a bit overkill. And we didn't need to do that, maybe a bit of pruning. Well, when they toured the site and in the documentation and their recommendations that went in the Appendix 1, it was, the plantation is not in great shape, which it isn't. So it does require massive pruning. So I guess that's part of my problem with zoning at NE1. When you remove all of the dead and diseased trees, there isn't enough to equal a woodlot. From Revenue or Environment Canada and their Canadian Forestry Services, they also say, destroy the tree. It will spread. If it's that bad, wipe out the entire forest, is their recommendation, and do something else with it. Something that isn't susceptible to this canker. This canker also spreads to sugar maple, poplar trees as well, which I'm sure Mr. Robinson right next door would be thrilled to have his maple forest wiped out with this canker. So, yes, I oppose the rezoning. So, any questions?
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Does council have any questions or comments? Councillor Snowblin first, please.
I guess I'd look to Selena or staff, someone. What would be the definition of a woodlot? As Ms. Stahl indicated, that it doesn't appear that they have a woodlot by definition.
Thanks for the question. Selena, please.
Thanks, Councillor Snowblin, through the mayor. I just want to clarify sort of, I think there's two separate items that Mrs. Stoll is speaking to. The one is the appropriateness of the rezoning, and the one is whether the forest conservation bylaw would apply in the case of clearing these trees, because they do remain separate issues in that the forest conservation bylaw applies to various properties regardless of zoning. So to answer Councillor Snowblin's question, I don't want to speak too much on this topic just because it is more Dave Pullen's expertise. But basically, the Huron County Forest Conservation Bylaw stipulates a certain number of alive trees to a certain diameter within a half acre in order to qualify an area as a woodlot. So there's some cases where Dave can walk on site and say, absolutely, you know, based on a visual technical perspective, this will meet the definition of a woodlot in the bylaw. There's other cases where if he may need to do some plotting through his own technology to make that determination.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Follow up, please.
So I guess I'm confused. Did Mr. Pullen determine that it was a woodlot then?
I was not on site when the site visit happened with the Stolls and with Rachel and Dave. My conversation with Dave verbally afterward was that he was not able to make that determination at the site visit.
Perfect. Thank you. Any additional questions, comments? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other members of the public that would like to make any comments at this time?
Andrew Turra. Andrew Turra.
Thank you.
82615 Heron Line. I strongly oppose the rezoning. The proposed rezoning is right behind my house. The back of it, they're going to go to NE5 is 71 feet from the back of my house. It restricts me from putting an addition on my house. It's about 25 feet from the back of my shop. I got clarification when I asked the question that if the building's burned down, that there's a clause that I can rebuild on that footprint. But it restricts a future buyer if they want to put an addition on, like the house isn't that big. Like you have to jump through hoops to get a permit to put an addition on. The question too was if I needed to put a new septic system in, I would have to go into this. And the answer was that they would work with me, but there's nothing in writing that says I can put a septic system in this NE5. That's basically it. Like the old line it's just 3 acres they want to change. So I don't see the purpose of taking 3 acres away from me. It just looks like a purposely put line there to block me from doing any future construction on my property. So not happy about it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make any comments at this time, please?
Council, it's nice to see everyone again.
And just
Anyway,
state your name if you would, please, sir, for everyone.
I own a property on.
Just state your name for
Ben
everyone.
Van
if you would, please.
Diepenbeek.
Thank you.
I live on 21 Highway, north of Port Albert. I own between North Street and Maple Grove Road, Maple Grove, Cedar Grove, going back to the lake. And the proposed change that they want to do with my property at the very back corner is, it's been Lakeshore Future Development all along for years. I've owned the farm now 49 years, and it's been Lakeshore Future Development all the way across the back of my farm. They want to change this to, well, it's also natural environment. Now, because of the emerald ash borer, a big chunk of that bush there's nothing there hardly, and I've cleaned it up, a lot of it. And I'm still working on cleaning it up. So anyway, there's two nice spots for a home down the road, but without future development on it, it limits me to what I can do with it. And originally, I opposed it last year when you did the official plan, but they went ahead and changed it anyhow, took the future development away from me. Now they're trying it through the zoning, and I'm opposed to that. So I would like to see, and when I asked why not just leave it alone, what was wrong with leaving it as future development? And I didn't get, it doesn't fit the policy. Well, a policy is just a guideline, and it can be whatever you want to interpret it as. Anyway, I'm objecting to the fact that they're taking away the future development. I own future development all the way across the back of the farm, and now this becomes an issue here. And it's also a natural environment. I agree with that. But I would like the opportunity to leave it as future development. A couple of years ago, they tried me out on calling it a wetland. So I got Maitland Valley and a lady from Sauble Bayfield to do a study on the bush, and it was determined that it's not a wetland. So I had to go through that hurdle. That's about 5 or 6 years ago I did that. And but anyway, I've been objecting to taking away the future development right from the get-go, from when you did the official plan review, and now again. So anyway, I'm objecting to that change. Now, we did talk a couple of times, and they've looked at the bush. There is opportunity to develop some of it, but probably not myself, maybe one of my family members, but I would like to see it left alone the way it was. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does council have any questions or comments? If not, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make any comments at this time, please?
I'm Art Simpson from Kintail. We've had a number of properties that had some changes on them, and most of them kind of make sense to me, and it's a little give and take back and forth to some farmland to some NE1, and that kind of makes sense to me. But the two that I'm not pleased with are on lot 29. There's a section in the back corner that is zoned AG1 currently, and it's a little bit of an awkward piece, but it's about 3.5 acres. I've made arrangements with the neighbor, and I've got an access in there now with equipment. It's started to grow up in some ash saplings, but as you know, the emerald ash borer, there's nothing left of it there. Every one of them is dead, and we'd like to keep it as AG1 if we could, and not have it changed to NE1. You know that it's that property there. So, yeah. Okay. And then the second one is similar to what Ben just brought up. Across the back of lot 25, I guess it is. We have it's farmland, and it's zoned AG1. Or sorry, it's been zoned future development. There looks like they're proposing to cut the future development area in about half. We own the farm to the south of it, and it's not being affected. But, you know, we've sort of we've owned this farm for 40 years. It's been future development for an awful long time, and it's part of our retirement plan, and to do something with that. The 100-year erosion line practically comes to its doorstep, so there's no development to the west of it. And as you know, a lot of that land is being eroded badly. We're far enough back from the lake. We won't be affected by erosion, but we would like to keep that as, future development for future development, so we object to those two changes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Does council have any questions or comments? If not, thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to make any comments at this time, please?
Hi, I'm Ted Cooper, 86553 St. Helens Line. I have concerns about zoning changes on my property from AG1 to NE5. And according to what I've been told so far about it, that the area in question is part of the Anderson Creek wetland complex. And I find that that doesn't exist on any other property but mine. And I find that unusual. And there's apparently some provincial policy statement from 2020 that requires municipalities to not permit development. I'd like to find some information on that. Is that possible?
Yes, thanks for the question. I'll defer to Selena, please.
Yeah.
Yep, certainly through the mayor, I can provide you with that policy for sure.
Because, and some more information on what the Anderson Creek wetland complex is. Because, like I say, I see none of that on any of the adjoining properties. And there's another little corner to the south of the farm that's gone from AG1 to NE5. And I'm not sure, according to the map, just exactly what they're pointing to there.
Okay, thank you. Selena, please.
Yeah, through the mayor. So the south, I'll call it the southeast portion of your property right here, Ted.
Yes.
That's proposed to go from NE1 to AG1 currently. I know those. So yeah, that's the proposed change there. Is to go to AG1.
To AG. Okay, so this isn't. Just take. There's the corner.
Yeah, that's to AG1.
Okay. All right. I'll make note of that. And I'm like Peter. I'm wondering what all these changes are about, because down the road I have greater concerns than I do today as to what's happening. I've seen pieces of my property disappear and get rezoned without notification over the years. And I'm bringing to mind the 1990 and 91 draft proposals that were put forth in West Wawanosh that were, there was no public consultation on that. We were just told, this is it, folks. And I'd like to see that. Well, we're finally seeing a chance to speak our minds on this. And it's long overdue. And if you're ever traveling on the St. Helens line and you want to maybe check out what might be considered a wetland, there's a nice little spot in the road that keeps sinking. And you won't have any trouble finding it. And maybe you should start there with your NE5s and your Anderson Creek wetland or complex, because it certainly isn't in the corner of my property to the northwest. And I'd like it to stay AG1. There is tile in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any questions or comments? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
I'm trying. There it is. Yeah, and the answer doesn't have to be now. I think there's enough comments here that I'm going to be comfortable thinking about this for a little bit. But I am curious about the comment about the Anderson Creek wetland complex. I've never heard of it, but that doesn't mean anything. But if I hear,
I'd like to know where it is.
yeah, so would I. So if that could be brought to a future meeting or whatever, that would be great. Thank you.
Duly noted by planners. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for that. Any additional questions or comments? If not, thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else who would like to make any comments at this time?
Elvis Vincent, 37137 Hawkins Road. I have a couple of properties affected, and basically the status quo is good by me. I do not want these changes. You weren't given permission to make these changes, and I guess I'm opposing them. I do not want them. It's short and sweet. I just like it the way it is right now. And it would be nice. I agree with everyone else that spoke. Who's directing this? Like, who's driving this? Why? Why is this happening? It's private property and everybody's sticking their fingers in it. I don't get it.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any questions or comments? Oh, thank you very much. Anyone else would like to make any comments at this time? Final time. Anyone else like to make any comments at this time?
Are you going to answer the question that why we're doing this eventually?
Not at.
Elvis just asked the question, why does this get done? I don't know.
Okay, thank you for that.
Who's driving? Who's driving?
Okay, does council have any questions or comments of our planner at this time? And I'll go to Deputy Mayor first, please.
Yes, thank you. I guess I'm in the same boat. I've looked at this a lot, and I don't know why we're out changing, especially AG1 over to natural environment. Natural environment, I just don't understand it. There's lots of places where handicapping our people that they can't operate their land the way they would. Lots of people are planting trees and doing good by it, but then all of a sudden we make it natural environment and we put these handicaps on these people. So they can't do this, they need permits, they need all this stuff to do it. I'm not in agreement with that at all. And I'll give you, for instance, between myself and Mr. Kernahan, we have a fence row that we've let grow up. And it's been mutual benefit for us. But this summer, if this is going to turn into natural environment, I'm going to cut the damn thing down because I don't want that happening to me. And I'm sure these people don't want it happening to them. So I think by us going out, and getting all this natural environment going, that we're causing more trouble than it's worth. And I agree with the people. I'm upset with it. I'm sure they're upset with it. And I don't know why we're doing it. Like, as you say, along the lake banks, if you've got that was already, see, mine is VC1, VR1. And so if you've got development up there like Ben does and this other gentleman had, then you don't want to see it go to natural environment because it's almost impossible to take it from that natural environment and put it back in and put a cottage or a house there. So my point is I don't think we should be going out and doing this natural environment. So that's my opinion, Mr. Mayor, and I hope everybody can live with it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Councillor Snowburn, please.
Well, I somewhat agree with Deputy Mayor Van Stone to a large degree. From what I've talked to people and read and heard tonight, there are a number of residents that have been very good stewards of the land and have done and gone to great lengths to, ensure that the land is well cared for and with an eye to the future. And I just don't think that they should be punished for it by having it zoned to a degree where they can't do anything with it somewhere down the road. I think there's always room for negotiation on a lot of things. And one of the other things I have kind of objection to is when I've heard a couple of people say that it's been zoned this way for I heard 149 years, 40 years. I don't know what's changed from 40 years ago. It doesn't make sense to me to change it now, but maybe I'm missing something. But again, I think that there's room for negotiation and some compromise from our residents on this and with the planning staff. But certainly, I think that people that have been good stewards of the land shouldn't be negatively affected. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Any, Councillor Hickey, please?
Thank you. Reviewing the zoning bylaw for ACW, if you look up AG1, section 4.1, permitted uses, 3 of the uses are agricultural use general, conservation, and forestry uses, not including a sawmill. And I think we're hearing prime examples of that from all the landowners tonight. More examples, 37584 Glens Hill Road. It's tiled, it's been tiled for over 50 years. There's no springs on this area. It's dry in the summer and the fall, and it's pasture land and grassland. The property owner knows what the land is capable of, and they do it. It's managed. 35877 Blythe Road. They got woodlot expansions. They planted windbreaks. They got green strips. They know what they need. It helps their land, and that's what they're trying to do. So I'm not in support of this at all. And my question would be to just throw out there, with the examples that we're hearing tonight and the examples that I just said, what is the advantage of changing it to natural environment if the landowners themselves are doing the management themselves? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional questions or comments of council? Planners, any additional comments before we wrap this up? Okay. With that, we do have a motion to close the public meeting and reconvene our special council meeting. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder for that. Councillors Miltenberg and Hickey, all in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you. I'm going to make some comments now, and in light of all of the comments that we have received tonight, and not only tonight, the comments that we've received in print also, it would be my suggestion for council that we ponder this and think about all the comments that we've received from the public as opposed to making a decision tonight. I indicated at the outset, we may or may not make a decision, and I would much rather err on the side of caution and think about all the comments that we have very seriously received from the public. And I offer that to council for your comments on them. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and that was my sentiments exactly. There's no way that I would go to passing this tonight until we delve into it a lot deeper and get some better understanding and some better answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hickey, please.
Just clarification, if we move it forward or just on hold, I guess, for now, over turning it down, what happens is the process if it was voted down tonight? If you know what I mean?
Your question specifically, what happens to the process?
Like in procedure wise. If we have a vote tonight and the vote is against, what is the next step of this compared to just holding it over to a future meeting?
Yeah, okay, I'll defer to our clerk for process, please.
So I guess it would depend on what piece of it you're looking to, move a motion on in anticipation that it would fail. If the motion failed, then you would probably have to give some direction as to what you would like to see changed, because then the zoning bylaw as it stands, or as it is without passing, would stay as it is. Whether or not you made it, like if you didn't make a decision today, like if you didn't vote on it, the bylaw still stands as it is today, no matter what. Is that what you're looking for? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, it sounds like, at least from my perspective and what I'm hearing, I'm going to guess the vast majority of changes have gone through. And if we don't pass at least the written text, there are people who want to do things like put up secondary houses and things like that who might be still waiting. Like, we want these bylaws to be in place for the spring season. So what I'm suggesting is we look at the actual text, because I do have a couple questions about the text. And if everyone agrees on that part, we pass that section tonight so that the people who want to build in the spring can. And the properties that are contesting, we don't pass that part and we revisit that if that is possible.
Okay, thank you for that. Clerk, do you have a comment, please?
Yeah, so if council wanted to, like, we do have the proposed text as a draft in the bylaw section here. So it is an option for someone to move it to consider it. Bear in mind that from the date of passing, there is a 20-day appeal period for that. So the sooner council does pass the bylaw, the sooner the construction season could get underway for those who are looking to take advantage of the changes proposed in the text. So it is up to council as to when you choose to do that. We do have the option to, decide to leave it for now, give us direction to bring it to a future meeting for consideration if you want to do the whole thing. As mentioned, we can split it up. We have split it up so that the text can be dealt with separately because of the anticipated objections on the mapping.
Okay. Follow-up, Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the text, and then I assume that I could then, if it's seconded, ask my questions of the text. That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion to
Introduce
bylaw 11/2024, the text update. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Snowblin. I guess, now, did you have an additional question or comment you'd like to make, Councillor Miltenberg, please?
Yeah, there's 3 sections of text that I would just like clarification on.
Okay, please. And now we'll just give her.
We can open it up. So now that it's moved and seconded,
Yes.
we can open the floor.
Okay. So the first question is on, and I know we have looked at this several times, so I'm not sure if I'm refreshing my memory or asking a new question. But my first question is on page 27. It is the paragraph on technical revisions to the zoning bylaw. And I guess it ties in with the questions that have been asked tonight, which I was kind of asking myself before we got here. None of this, what's happening tonight, where people are getting, or zoning suggestions are being made, can be done in-house under this red paragraph. This would be housekeeping stuff that can be done. Am I reading that correctly?
Okay, and I will defer to our staff, please. Selena?
Through the mayor, Councillor Miltenberg, that's correct. This text is basically to clarify that in the event. So an example of this would be like a reference to a bylaw in a specific zone of the text. If that reference to that bylaw is no longer correct because of a bylaw number change, this provision would give staff permission to make that correction to reference the same bylaw, but provide that proper number. This provision does not give staff the ability to change any provision of the bylaw in terms of its intent. It's just to clean it up administratively when it comes to like page numbering, grammatical errors. If we found a misspelling, that would be what this authority provides.
Okay, thank you. May I continue with my questions? I have 3, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely, please.
The second question is on page 112, and it's referencing the on-farm diversified uses, which I'm quite happy to be seeing included. It's quite the talk at conferences for the last couple of years, at least the municipal agricultural one anyway. Under section, the red paragraph, D, that the on-farm diversified uses are a maximum of 1 hectare in size, and uses larger than 1 hectare may be permitted through rezoning to the AG3. Can you just explain to me what that exactly means?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Miltenberg. This general provision for on-farm diversified uses came out of conversation between building and planning about practically regulating these uses. And this provision is based off of publication 853, which is the province's direction on on-farm diversified uses. And in that publication, it speaks to ensuring that an on-farm diversified use remains secondary to the main agricultural use. And so the idea here was that in terms of scale, a maximum of 1 hectare certainly provides flexibility for farmers to access this provision, but that if you're looking to propose something larger than 1 hectare in size, that should be considered through a rezoning to the actual agriculture, commercial, industrial zone to recognize that as becoming more of a main use and less secondary to that agriculture piece.
Okay, so that is the one of the questions. I was at a municipal ag forum, I believe it was in Brant County, and one of the sites that we visited was an apple orchard that had become like a wedding venue, and you also got to take like tractor rides, or it was a wagon ride or something through that area. But it was certainly bigger than 1 hectare. Would this restrict that?
Through the mayor, this would essentially say that that use would need to be evaluated by council through a planning application on that site-specific basis.
So it could still be an on-farm diversified use without having to go commercial on a case-by-case basis? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. It would be kind of evaluated by staff and council on a case-by-case basis in terms of, okay, if an on-farm diversified use is seeking to exceed 1 hectare, is that use appropriate, and what is the appropriate zoning to recognize that use should council have the desire to approve that application?
Okay, just on that, just hold that thought if you could please, Councillor Miltenberg. I'd like to invite the manager of planning, Denise Van Amersfoort, to make a comment at this time, please.
Thanks. Excellent question. On-farm diversified uses are newer uses. We aren't as familiar with different examples. The example I would use would be a maple syrup farm. So if someone comes to the farm, absolutely, there's tours to the back of the farm in the woodlot. That's part of the on-farm diversified use. We wouldn't count those areas that are also used for the farm, right? So the farm, the forest at the back, if they were to drive through the fields, none of that would count towards the size limitation. Even where a building is used for farm purposes and used for the on-farm diversified use, you don't count that either. So in the example that Councillor Miltenberg gave, the wedding venue itself would count, but let's say there was a parking lot that was used for the wedding venue and was also used seasonally for parking of agricultural equipment, we wouldn't count the parking lot, we only count the building. So to be honest, you would have to have quite a sizable on-farm diversified use before we'd have any concerns about that size limitation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Does that help, Councillor?
Yes, because I also went to a bison farm and they did the same thing, right? They had this little area, but then you could go and look at all their different things. So that would keep the on-farm diversified use in place, and they wouldn't have to go commercial. So that was my concern. Thank you for that very good answer. My final question is just kind of nitpicking. It's on page 181, and it's talking about permitted building structures in the RC1 zone, and it's the red lettering. And I would like clarification on that. It is buildings and structures not including residences accessory to the permitted uses to a maximum size of 15 square meters for sheds and 10 square meters for all other buildings and structures. Can you explain that to me, please?
Thank you, Councillor Miltenberg. Sorry, through Mayor McNeil. I might defer to Brett to add some additional clarification to that one, based on conversations between building and planning, if you're comfortable speaking to that.
Okay, that's on page 181, Brett. Thank you.
Yeah, basically the thought process behind adding that was just generally these zones have trailers which come and go, or maybe some seasonal structures that don't ever require permits. And the idea was just to keep the permits out of the park, and we don't have to go in there and issue permits, because generally they stay under that size anyway, so they don't require a building permit. So this is just further clarifying that, you know, these are the structures that are really anticipated to be in the park, and they're not having 20 by 20 sheds on a camp trailer site.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional questions of council? Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes, and I don't know if you can answer this, Lena, but anyways, if we went ahead with the details on the what the written part of it anyways, is there anything in there that will affect the mapping? Because I was looking here, there's distances and stuff that's going to be changed. Is that going to affect, because if it is, I'd like to see it laid over for another time to another, so we get clarity on it. Because there are distances in here, and I'm not sure as to how effective that's going to be to different people. Like as Mr. Traw said, and back his property, he will be affected by distances. So is there anything in here that will affect that?
Okay, thanks for the question. Selena, please.
Through the mayor, it's my opinion that there's not. In thinking about the text changes, the only distances that have been changed or added are, in my opinion, pertaining to the additional residential unit provisions that we've added. So, for example, like the distance between an additional residential unit on an AG1 and a main residence. In terms of, and I'll speak to natural environment zoning specifically because that was the majority of the matters brought up this evening. There's no text changes pertaining to those zones that would bear impact on the mapping.
Yep, follow up, absolutely.
Well, as you'll tell, I need to be clear. And so with Ben and Mr. Simpson on their being taken that off of there, is that in the mapping or is that in the words and the description in here?
Through the mayor, that is in the mapping.
Thank you, that's in the mapping. So if we pass this and hold back the mapping, then we can address everybody's problems. Most of them.
I would concur with that statement.
Thank you.
Okay, any other additional questions? Councillor Snowden, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 33, under the bed and breakfast establishment, I guess I wasn't aware that, as the text indicates, that the proprietor resides at the bed and breakfast establishment. And yet it doesn't appear to be something new. How does that affect some of the complaints that we've had over the past year in terms of the Airbnbs and so on? I'm not sure that Selena has the knowledge, the background on that.
Okay, we hear the question, so I'll defer to staff for a response, please.
Through the mayor, I'm not able to answer that question off the cuff this evening. I'd ask municipal staff if they have any additional comments there.
Okay, thank you for that. Clerk, please.
My only comment to that would be that we haven't received any complaints that there has been necessarily a bed and breakfast operating outside of any kind of parameter. So there haven't been any complaints specific to that. I would have to look at it a little bit more in depth, but in terms of receiving anything, nothing specific to this.
Absolutely.
Just to clarify, then, it's not bed and breakfast establishments that we're getting the complaints on, it is vacation rentals that we're getting. So I know that you're bringing up a report forward probably in the next upcoming meetings or so on. Maybe it's wise to address it then through the policy.
I think that would be appropriate, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? If I could just ask one, and it is for absolute clarity. So if we approve this text, it does not preclude us from making any future decisions on comments from property owners we've heard here tonight. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, sorry, to the mayor, yes, that's correct. Thank you. If council were to consider the text bylaw this evening, it does not result in council needing to make any form of decision one way or the other on the mapping bylaw. They are completely separate items.
Okay, thank you for that, because I want to reserve judgment on that to consider all the things I've heard. Okay, Councillor Forrester, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. So the mapping changes, is that just people that showed up tonight or people that can't make it tonight? Can I have clarity on that?
Okay, the question and the response is, please.
Through the mayor, Councillor Forrester, just for clarification, you're looking to confirm that none of the mapping is proceeding, that it's not just the folks who are speaking this evening whose mapping would be held back. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You are correct. So no mapping changes have proceeded to date, and no mapping changes will proceed without formal direction from council.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, the clarity. Any other questions? Okay. So it has been moved and seconded, leave be given to introduce bylaw 11/2024, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 32-2008 for the township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and that it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 15th day of February 2024. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. So with that, clerk, please.
I would just like to confirm direction from council in terms of the mapping.
Yeah.
Just to confirm that we will bring that back to a future meeting for consideration. Okay.
That is the direction of council to our staff.
Okay, thank you.
We will consider all of the mapping at a future meeting. So to all members of the pub, I'm Councillor Blake, please.
To clarify the future meeting, would that be a public meeting or just underneath the standard meeting time? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I'll defer to our clerk.
So it won't be a formal public meeting. It will be a council meeting where that is brought forward to.
Correct. So to all members of the public, I would just suggest to just watch the website as far as the meetings notices, as far as the agenda, so that everyone is aware when this will be coming back, and it will come back to a future meeting when our staff are prepared to do so. Okay. So with that, we do have a confirmatory bylaw that I would entertain a mover and a seconder for, and it would be Deputy Mayor and Councillor Hickey that moves and seconds that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 10-2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Special Council meeting held on February 15th, 2024, and then it now be read severally, first, second, and third time, and finally pass this 15th day of February 2024. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn, if you would please. Councillor Forrester and Miltonberg. That Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council does now adjourn to meet again on February 20th, 2024 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the mayor. All in favor of the motion? And that again is carried. And thank you very much to all.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Wayne.